Hello everybody, this is John Ashworth, the Fitness Nomad, here again with head chef at the Fitness Nomad, Sara Ben-Ami. We're going to talk today briefly about how to use a knife. I remember learning how to use this when I was a banquet chef way back in the day in high school. Very, very important technique because of course we don't want any of you cutting your fingers off. Alright, so show us how it's done, Sara.
Okay, first thing is you're going to want a good chef knife. I have two sizes here. This is about an 8-inch one and about a 10-inch. I have smaller hands, I'm a smaller person, I prefer the 8-inch. John would probably be better off using the 10-inch because he'll have more control over that. You need to find a knife that works with your hand. Gripping it by the handle, using your forefinger and your thumb to hold the blade for better control. Chopping, always keep your hands on top of the blade. Guess why? No fingers under the blade. Good paring knife and a good tomato knife. These are the knives that I use every day. I would be happy with just these knives. So the first technique we're going to use is just a basic chopping technique. Mincing, actually. So I have some parsley here. I just break off the stems. Everyone has their own technique. I just happen to like to get the stems out of the way. You can always save the stems for soup stock. If you make stock your soup from scratch.
Or if you're running short on fiber for the day.
Alright, I just make a little wad here. And I start, again, obviously I can't have my hands without the blade because I'm holding the parsley, but I'm being very careful to keep my fingers out of the way. Then I go back in a 90-degree angle across from my initial cut. And you can see what you end up with is a finely minced parsley. That's all there is to that. I make it look easy. The next technique is going to be a dicing technique. Dicing you'll use a lot for salads or for cooking. So I'm starting with a red pepper here. I just cut all the way through. I like to cut it in quarters. You can take the white membrane out. There's actually nothing wrong with the membrane, but it's not very attractive.
You can save it for your smoothie.
More fiber.
That's right.
But that fiber is going in my compost pile normally at home. Alright, when you got something like this, you only have to cut in 2 dimensions because it's already got a thin dimension. You just cut strips. Depending on how fine you want your dice, you cut the strips thinner or thicker if you're doing a coarse dice. And then you just, again, just flip your vegetables the other way and just cut across. Whoopsie. So you get little squares. That's nice for your salads. You might want a little bit smaller if you're putting it in eggs. If you're doing stir fry, you could have just left it in the strips. That's a coarse dice. Onions are a little bit different when you're going to cut an onion. Oopsie. I cut the tops off, I cut it in half. It has not so great center, but peel the outer skin off. Now here's the secret that I do. I keep that outer skin as a handle. And what I do is essentially, I'm not going to cut through the root end. I'm cutting little fingers, essentially. Can you see them in the camera?
Yep.
So when you get done with that, again, you're just going to cut in the opposite direction, 90 degrees from your original cut, and you end up with a little dice. Again, the finer the dice you want for something like this, the thinner you make the strips in each direction. If it's not thin enough for you, you can always give a little bit of chop afterwards. Now, this is where the tomato knife comes in handy. When you're cutting a tomato, unless you've got a very new, very sharp chef's knife, it's going to be difficult because the tomato is soft inside with a tough skin. So, a good tomato knife, which is a serrated knife, thin and flexible, and you can just cut through. Again, this one you're going to have to flip in 3 directions because you've got a thicker substance. So that was my first direction, here's my second direction. My third direction. And I've got my little dice.
And I'll tell you, those sharp serrated knives make all the difference. Sara got me one of those for Christmas this year, and I've never cut more tomatoes before springtime than I have this year. It's been fantastic. So make sure you got a good sharp knife. Really important to have the right tools.
Now when you're cutting something really hard like a carrot, rather than trying to cut the full length, which is dangerous because the carrot rolls, try cutting it in half the long way first, so you got one cut. Then you have a stable surface to cut from. Then do your cutting. Now, if you want to just have julienne, you can have it like this and then cut it the other way. If you want little pieces, like for soup, and then you just cut across again the other way. thin as you want it. You really want to be careful when you're cutting harder vegetables though, because it's really easy to have your knife just roll off and slice you. And the last one I have is a mango. An avocado. But a mango would be a similar idea. You got a soft thing. Again, you got a tough skin. What I do is I actually do most of the cutting right on the skin. I don't even take it off. So I just did cuts like that. I'm going to cut it across the other way now. And I'll cut it one way this way. And then I just pop it right off.
All right, do the other half slower.
Okay. I just licked my fingers. Don't look. Okay.
All right.
So I'm just cutting it the thickness of the pieces I want. I sliced it that way.
Okay.
Then I rotate, just like I'm doing my 90 degrees again, and I'm going to cut the other direction. And now these pieces are still pretty thick this way, so I'm going to cut down once through there, and again through there, so that I've got little squares. You can see when I start popping it out.
Yep.
Boom.
And again, essential to have a nice sharp knife in order to make that happen.
Or a nice ripe avocado, because now I'm really messy. And that's it for my
All right, and that's it. Thank you, Sarah.